let's move under scans. Remember, both our post tokens and post users APIs are reachable. Okay, so we're going to run a third scan. Let's run another one. Again, pay attention to your console. You're going to see a good chunk of stuff going through. Users being created, tokens being provisioned, right? And this time you're going to see that we're done 74%, 99%. We already have 7 issues completed. Now we're done. So we have 3 extra issues, right? So let's select the scan, the third scan row. And all the extra issues that we have pretty much associated to post tokens, right? And they're all related to broken user authentication pretty much, right? Because we use a weak authentication method, because we're using a weak password policy on the authorization header, because we provide excessive data in the JSON Web Token. So let's start with the top one, the medium post tokens weak authentication method. You're being told, hey man, you shouldn't be using basic, right? It tells you, the description tells you just that, right? You're using basic authentication. It is considered weak and unsecured. With basic authentication, the full set of credentials is sent on every authenticated request with no encryption, only basics for encoding, right? So additionally, how can you revoke now a user? Change the password, right? That's the only way you can do it. Change the password, remove the user altogether, right? That's the only way you can do it. So basic authentication is frowned upon, right? It's not a good way to authenticate, in all honesty. But hey, it is present. Here's the corresponding operations in the timeline, right? So the very first thing, remember what I mentioned initially, that active testing is just, or active testing takes the role of an attacker trying to break your APIs, right? So that's why you see the first request, the attacker validates that the tested API endpoint is not reachable without authentication. Right? That was that request that we sent without any authentication, the warm up to the reachability optimizer. The second one is what actually establishes the successful request, right? Successful processing of a request, and of course it makes use of basic authentication. That's why you get what you do. And by the way, if you select any one of these, you're going to get to see the corresponding request and response. So pretty much you have full visibility in what the active testing tries to do. Not always, but for example, you don't get to see that whether it tries to check whether the operation is repeatable in this case for the corresponding reachability, right? So that's one. Back to the scan results. Number 3. Post tokens, weak password policy. Same thing. Here's the basic authentication. DO is your password. That's a very weak password. You fix this problem, at least you're going to get away. You're going to get rid of at least 2 issues. Right? At least 2 issues. Back. Last one is the excessive data in the JSON Web Token. And again, what is the problem? The problem is that your JSON Web Token now contains a name, John Doe, and it contains the role. Why would you need to provide this information at the JSON Web Token? I don't know. Right? Probably you do not have to. Right? Probably you just need to pass the ID or the unique ID that matches the JSON Web Token with a user, and you do a lookup on the API level, right? Now, why do I want to show you all that? Because if I go in the response that has a JSON Web Token, and this is everywhere where you're going to have a JSON Web Token type of structure, you have a light bulb, right? The response contains a JSON Web Token, right? So if I go to the light bulb and I select it, you're going to get to see pretty much the header, the header base64 decoded, and the data, the algorithm token type, and the actual data, the payload, the claim. Right? So you're going to get to see everything. I don't know about you, but this to me shows attention to detail. When I first saw this, I go, holy smokes, this is amazing. Very easily within your grasp, you can actually see the information that are inside your token. So you don't have to go to sites like Jot and so on. Beautiful. That's beautiful. All right, and these are the issues, right? These are the issues specific to the user's API. There you go. Uh, Something else I haven't showed you yet, and let's do it now that we have a couple of runs. If we go a couple of scans, if we go to the overview, now you're going to be able to see a few more interesting aspects, right? So the first one was everything was unreachable. The second one, we have one informational, low, medium, and high severity type of security vulnerabilities. Second one, we have still one that is info and the rest that are high, a couple that are medium, and a couple that are low, right? And you can see a breakdown of all those issues across different tables, right? Here they are. If I go to the issues, now you're going to get to see the life cycle of all the issues that have been discovered across all your scans, right? Across all your scans. Here it is. You only have 7, and of course, all 7 were discovered in the last scan as well. So that's why you see the last scan right here. Okay. And as soon as we fix one of these issues, you will see the status is going to change automatically during the next scan. We're going to get to do it in a few minutes in a subsequent section. The inventory, well, the inventory contains the same exact information. The only thing that changes is pretty much the authentication now that is used, John Doe Basic, tags, and so on, right? And if I am to be complete, if I select now, if I go back to the reachability optimizer, I'm sorry, reachability timeline, now you have this pull down menu that shows you, okay, with no authentication it failed, with the John Doe Basic authentication it succeeded, right? And you can select these and you can see the corresponding tests, right? You can see the corresponding tests, which is pretty nifty. You get pretty much visibility across the board. All right, so with this, we concluded we concluded pretty much with the user's API. Next, we're going to do, so section end, next we're going to do flights, right? We're going to bring in flights and we're going to see that can of worms, that Pandora's box.